Saan batskalu? Sa akin tanitsla. Good afternoon. I was born in an urban inner city in the United States. In the 4th grade, I was a shy, nerdy little girl, afraid of being lost, afraid of not being heard, afraid of my own shadow, afraid of a lot of things. One day, at the end of my 4th grade year, my teacher, Mrs. Wright, called me to the front of the room, and she said that I would be getting a low grade for the year because I hadn't turned in all of my assignments. I was very confused because being smart and turning in my assignments was how I defined myself. So I did what any shy, afraid little 4th grader would do. I started crying. Oh, and she said, "Go back to your desk." I went back to my desk, and at that time we had wooden individual desks with lids. I went to my desk, I raised the lid, and I turned the desk over. I poured everything onto the floor, and I picked up each individual piece of paper until I found the missing assignment. It was an A paper. I stood up, and I looked to the front of the room at Mrs. Wright, and I went, shaking, to her desk. And I put the paper on her desk, and I stepped back. Have you ever been afraid to stand up for yourself? I waited. Because when we are afraid to stand up for ourselves, maybe we're afraid to be yelled at. Maybe we're afraid to be hit. Maybe we're afraid to be made to feel smaller than we already feel. I waited, and Miss Wright said, "Miss Grant, you have perseverance." I cried and cried. I'm like, I don't know what perseverance is. Go to the back of the room. Look up perseverance in the dictionary, and then come back to my desk. I cried all the way back to the dictionary. Perseverance. Where do I point the clicker? Persevere, yes. Here. There. I can't show this picture for much longer. Thank you. Commitment to a course of action. At 9 years old, I was committed to education. I was committed to getting out of the inner city. I was committed to getting a good job. I was committed to going to university so I could help my family. Girls all over the world are making those kinds of commitments. Early, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10. Women all over the world are making those kinds of commitments. every day. Commitments to help their parents as they grow older. Commitments to raise their children in safe environments, to be healthy, to be strong. Commitments made every day in the face of challenges, in the face of discouragement, in the face of cancer, in the face of diabetes, in the face of domestic violence, in the face of HIV/AIDS, in the face of fear. They make commitments. We make commitments every day. That little 4th grade girl turned away from that big dictionary, and I had to walk back to Mrs. Wright's desk. I had a piece of paper in my hand with a word on it. A word that defined me in a very different way. But I was still afraid. How do you move forward when you are afraid? How do women keep moving forward when they're afraid? I tell you one way. One foot in front of the other. That's it. One foot in front of the other. I went back to that desk, and I was learning something as I took and put one foot in front of the other. That you can be afraid, but you do not have to be paralyzed. Fear does not have to paralyze. I went back to Mrs. Wright with my new word. Well, Miss Grant, spell perseverance. P-E-R P-E-R-S-E-R-E-A-N-C-E. Miss Grant, what does it mean? It means that I can still do something when I'm very, very afraid. Miss Wright looked at me, and I can only imagine in my mind's eye today as an adult, that she looked at this little frightened kid, and she thought, oh my, I wonder what she's going to be when she grows up. The power of a teacher, the power of a word. If I could talk to her today, I would say, well, Mrs. Wright, we did it. Because I could never say I did it by myself. We did it. We went to college. We graduated. And my mother, she felt pretty good at that graduation. She said, you should go to some more school. Yana. Well, Mrs. Wright, we went on to university and we became a trained social worker. I became someone who is charged with standing up for the rights of people who are afraid, of giving voice to people who are on the edges of our society, of helping give voice to people who are down, who are sick, who are tired, who are afraid. I work with all kinds of women in all walks of life. Rich, poor, young, old, black, white, brown. Women in prison, my favorite. Grandmothers raising grandchildren. Women who are sad, women who are depressed, women who are fearful, women who are beaten. step back a bit. I would tell Mrs. Wright today that I have spent a life helping women, helping girls not be afraid. And in this life, as a social worker, I found Peace Corps. I found an organization dedicated to not wishing the world is a better place, but working hard to make the world a better place. An organization, we take individuals who are trained from the United States, and they go to over 76 countries around the world. In Mongolia today, we have 139 Peace Corps volunteers. An organization dedicated to working outside of one's comfort zone, learning the language, living with Mongolian families, living in hashas, living in gers. Working to make Mongolia a better place, but working from the prospect or the perspective of helping Mongolia reach her dreams. Not our dreams for her, but her dreams for herself. We were invited 21 years ago to Mongolia by the Mongolian government. We have served in 21 years over 120,000 Mongolian students, teaching English, teaching future English teachers in Mongolia. Wow, that's perseverance. Yeah? And I'm a part of it, Mrs. Wright. Yeah? And our Mongolian volunteers work with Mongolian counterparts, teachers, nurses, small business men and women, right? Helping them conduct needs assessments for what they need to move ahead, to be stronger. One volunteer in Hoskol IMAX Center, in direct response to young people in that IMAG, created a workshop that addressed the needs of unemployed 18 to 35-year-old young people. They want to get jobs, but they just didn't have the skills that they needed to move up and to be accepted into jobs. And ran an 8-week workshop, learning the skills, writing resumes, doing job interviews. One foot in front of the other in an effort to get a job. Yeah? Another volunteer in Oaks noticed a few women who did beautiful embroidery. Yeah? Notice that these women were only selling a few pieces of their beautiful embroidery. Met with those women, talked to those women, and developed an 8-week workshop, seems to be a magic number, an 8-week workshop where those young women were paired with a textile consultant from UB and were able to learn about developing a product line, managing money, developing savings accounts, moving into a bigger marketplace. Perseverance, one foot in front of the other. Amazing, amazing work. Another volunteer, a trained nurse from the United States. In Sukhbatar province, she decided that wouldn't it be nice to have a training center, a nursing skill laboratory, trained 5 nurses in special new skills. And those 5 nurses trained 135 more nurses, doctor's assistants, and others. Wow! Perseverance, one foot in front of the other. And I'll share one more. There are thousands of Peace Corps stories in Mongolia. Thousands. Another volunteer in Jaflan, Seoul, a smaller village, noticed that there were a lot of female heads of households, women who were trying to earn a living for their families. Many of these women had children with disabilities, and they could not earn enough to support their families. And what this volunteer did was he took 20 of these female heads of households and he developed a workshop. He divided them into groups of 5. And they received training in boot making, training in tailoring, training in vegetable garden development, and training in carpentry. One foot in front of the other. Perseverance. Thank you. As women, we must persevere. We must. We are raising the future. We must persevere to honor women who've gone before us, who have lived lives so that we could be here. We must persevere. It just takes some of us a little bit longer to find the word. Yeah? My great-great-grandmother was born a slave. I imagine she had to persevere. And my grandmother tells the story of this little girl born a slave who decided to work hard and survive and live. Survive and live. I can't be afraid when I have to live up to that history. We can't. There's an ending to the story of the 4th grade Darlene that I like to share. When I was walking back to Mrs. Wright's desk for that last time, something was different. I had that new word. I had that new definition that told me I could do something with my life if I just kept trying no matter what. Yeah? I had it in my hand. I also had my grandmother's voice in my mind and in my heart. And I know many of you carry your grandmother's voices with you. Yeah? Universal. And I was walking to that desk and I stood up, a little taller. I wasn't crying. Women are doing that every day. Standing up a little taller. Yeah? Listening to the voice of that grandmother who's whispering, "You can do it, baby. You can do it. Don't let her hold you down." But listen to her. Yeah? There's a proverb in Mongolia that says, if you capture every raindrop, you will have an ocean. Yeah? There's a proverb in Mongolia that says, if you listen to every word, you will have knowledge. And I listened. And my grandmother said, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. I just have to be a little more braver than I am afraid. We, as women, just have to be a little more braver than we are afraid, and we will persevere. Thank you.